Hello party people and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing reactive abuse. This is a concept that I discovered on TikTok. TikTok may not always be right, but in this particular case, it really opened my mind to a particular situation in which I have been abused in the past. So, little background, my first marriage was incredibly toxic. Honestly, the abuse was always covert, as in you got grandiose abuse, which is just everyone can see it. He screams at her, he hits her, he yells at her. And then you have covert abuse. And my ex's family and her are specializing in covert abuse because they come across as soft-spoken. They come across as safe. And the reason I bring this up is because reactive abuse is where you're put into a situation where you are baited, essentially, by toxic people or people who want to get to you, and they will bait you into situations where you will get angry and you will bite back. So they'll back you up into a corner like a snake, and then they'll mess with you, they'll tease you, and then you'll bite. And when you bite, they play the victim. They use stuff like the Darvo technique, which is to deny responsibility or deny that anything even happened, that they did anything wrong. They'll attack you, attack your character, attack your sense of being. They'll reverse it so that you're the offender and they're the victim. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. And I'll talk about the Darvo technique in another video, but that's essentially a rundown of it. So reactive abuse for me came in situations where I was made to feel very unsafe. I was made to feel like my entire life was in jeopardy. I had been falsely accused of things that could have gotten me hurt because people don't like people who do the things I was accused of. My family was put into jeopardy. There was a lot of situations where I was put into danger. And at the time, I kind of thought, my ex was on my side. But things just, over time, kind of revealed to me that I couldn't trust. I couldn't trust that person. And I started to get angry. I started to get very angry and bitter about these situations because, how dare these people put me into jeopardy? And even worse, how do they put my family into jeopardy? And as a result, I became so angry that I lashed out. And whenever I would lash out, he yells at me, right? I'm not proud of yelling at anyone, but I would get put in situations where I was flooded with emotions, very real, very, very strong emotions, and I was made to feel like my emotions didn't matter. And so my only options were I could suppress, I could suppress it or I could lash out. At that point, there was no opportunity for me to give healthy communication. And that's kind of a hard situation to be in. So if you're in that situation, it's not normal what you're going through. And I just want to acknowledge that. So if you feel like your only option, if you can't meet in the middle, I'm very good at communicating. And so I was in situations where I had communicated, over-communicated, changed my communication, tried different strategies, tried therapy to no avail. You can only communicate so much with a wall before you're just like, it's a wall, And you could tell I'm getting, even the memory of it makes me upset. And so if you're going through the same thing, I totally get you. I feel you. I understand. You're not alone. There are other people out there who are struggling and who have been through what you're going through. So if communication doesn't work, healthy, positive communication patterns, if it doesn't work, you feel like your only option is to suppress everything that you believe, stop acting like yourself, pretend like you don't have wants, needs, and desires that are on an equal level. You have to pretend like, okay, you have to put them up on a pedestal and try to meet their needs, and they're never happy anyway. My advice, is that you're not alone on that, because truly, there are situations where you feel like your only option is to lash out, or your only option is to suppress instead of expressing. Express is the only healthy way. Suppressing is not healthy, and expressing in a very, like lashing out is not a good option. And that's what reactive abuse does. Reactive abuse is where someone's pushed to their breaking point and the person goes, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And you just get so sick of it that you pop them in the finger and you say, you were touching me, you just weren't physically touching me, but you knew exactly what you were doing. And that's the thing, they know what they're doing. Abusive people are smart. And if they're not, they're at least smart at manipulating. I mean, who's to say if my ex is smart? But I'll tell you what, she definitely knows what she's doing in some capacity. And I only bring that up as a personal example because I want to be authentic with you. I want to tell you that I know that there are bad people out there. I've experienced bad people out there. And if you're in situations where you're reactively abusing people, where you lash out because you're being pushed to your breaking point, and if you know that you are willing to communicate with someone, but you keep having to shut down because they're not listening, or if you, what's the word? If you feel like you just have to freaking punch a wall, you feel like you can't breathe in this environment, you're flooded, you're sick, you feel physically sick, you feel like your legs are quaky and you want to give out, you're always in fight or flight, you're always feeling like if in order to protect yourself, you say, my safety's not here. I feel like I'm in jeopardy and she's doing nothing about it or he's doing nothing about it. And eventually you snap, and whenever you snap, you look like the bad guy. You look like they're so innocent and you're so guilty, and you prove their point. You prove the point that they're some poor little innocent victim when you know everything that's going on behind closed doors. But because you were the second kid on the playground to punch, that's who the crossing guard or whatever saw punch. I still struggle with this situation. I struggle with it very, very often. Same person I'm co-parenting with. So same exact situation on a frequent basis. So how do you react to that situation? It's really hard to say. I'm going to make a part 2 of this video, and I'm going to do a little bit of research because I do wonder what people like you and me can do to avoid reactive abuse. A lot of the times I just avoid the person. You got to avoid the person who's making you feel that way. If you're in a relationship with someone and you know they intentionally bait you or pick at you or pick at your scab until you start bleeding all over them, but then they're the victim because you bled on them, it's cause and effect, you know? They cause you to have anger, and the effect is you lash out and it makes you look terrible. So if you go through this, I just want to validate you. I just want to let you know that you're not alone. I want to let you know that you're not the only one. I'm here. I'm going through it too. You're going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. If you stay calm. Try to do your best to make sure that you're communicating properly, even if they don't communicate properly, because they never do. And when they do communicate, it's always to get their way. It's always to manipulate. And if that's the case, just keep being yourself and staying true to your character, because that's what matters most in this world. You're always going to have snakes with venom dripping out of their freaking fangs. Make sure that you're not the victim of that by getting yourself away from them. And when you do have to interact with them, make sure that you're not allowing them to put you in a corner so that you bite them. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Just know that everything's going to be okay. You got to stay calm. You got to stay calm above all things. I love you guys.